Thank you. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. I can't see the screen. Okay, you have my slides up. Today I want to share with you some of the great work that we're doing in collaboration with other organizations in the United States. Excuse me. And not from a perspective of, wow, look at this great work that we're doing, which it is really great work, but from a perspective of, we've learned some things that we want to share. We want to learn from you, and here's where we're going forward, and how can we do that together? So, our RISE initiative, I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to share with you a little bit about our NEOS Clinical Research Learning Institute, a little bit about our patient engagement team, a little bit about health literacy and what we're doing there, and a program that we call Office Hours. But first, you're probably thinking, like, who is this person? Why are they talking to us? So I want to tell you a little bit about myself for those of you that I don't know. My name is Allison, and I'm responsible for community engagement for the Northeast ALS Consortium, or NEOS, and the Healy Center at Mass General Hospital in Boston. But more than that, I want to tell you a little bit about me as a person. For those of you who don't believe in love at first sight, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. You're just wrong. You know that, like, that connection you feel, even like when you're walking in the room and you connect to somebody and you really just want to talk to them or get to know them, you have that connection. And when you have that connection at a huge level with every part of your soul, then you know you found your soulmate, right? So I have no doubt that I found my soulmate in Jeff. As you guys can see those pictures, right? I'm too short to see the screen. So we had such a great connection. Like, we lived together, worked together, had the same friends. Our families were just merged together. We bought a home. We had a son. We were living the dream for over 20 years. So you're thinking, well, why aren't you here? What are you talking about? Well, my why is that all of that ended with 3 words. Those words, you have ALS. And that changed in 380 days. That changed I love you to I miss you when Jeff passed away. So I think yesterday somebody had told us that a picture paints 1,000 words. And I can't begin to tell you what that diagnosis feels like if you've never been there, and I hope you're never there if you haven't been there. But it's dark, and it's chaotic, and it's confusing. And this is our favorite spot. This is La Jolla Coves in California, if anybody has been there. And this is July 7th, 2015. We had gone to the University of California, San Diego to see if stem cells might be something that could help with ALS. The next picture is that same spot in 2016, same day, and Jeff had already gone. So without words, you can see what a dark place people go to. And for me, I wasn't really sure what to do at that point, and I think probably a lot of us feel that way, right? So I'm going to tell you what my mom told me, and I apologize in advance because my mom is really lovely, but she's a little abrupt sometimes. And she said, Allison, it's okay if you fall down, but when you get back up as the whole damn fire. Don't just change yourself, change the world, make it a better place. So I'm like, okay, Mom, I think that's what I'm going to do. And so I made the decision to bloom where I was planted, in that dark place. And I did that by really immersing myself in these 2 organizations, which are NEOS and the Healy Center at Mass General. So I'll tell you first a little bit about NEOS. So NEOS is a consortium of academic centers who perform clinical research in ALS. And we have about 150 academic research sites that we support. We have a scientific advisory board, we have a biorepository, and we have a whole lot of subcommittees. I think there are like 17. But one of those subcommittees is what we call the Patient Education and Advocacy Committee, the Peace Committee, for those of you who have heard of that. And in that committee, we run what's called our Research Ambassador Program through a Clinical Research Learning Institute, or a CURLI, as it's called. I'm a little opposed to that name, but that's what it is. So through this Peace Committee, we get together every month, and I'm looking around, and so many of you participate in this with me, so thank you. We get together every month, and our goal is to bring together our research ambassadors from the patient community with the science community, with industry, with other organizations in the ALS space, and to talk about what we're doing. We don't want to repeat anything. We want to be involved with each other because we know, at least in the United States, that we have a ton of ALS organizations, and everybody specializes in something a little bit different, right? So no one organization can speak for the entire community. We need to work together. So we do this through our Peace Committee. And what we do for our Clinical Research Learning Institute is we bring people with lived experience in for a 2-day training class, a crash course on clinical research. And we talk about things like, what is clinical research? How does it work? What is the role of statistics in research? You know, how do you read a research paper or a press release? What's hope? What's hype? How do you communicate? And our goal is to really create a group of respected leaders in the patient community who stand with the science community, who are good stewards of science under the guidance of the science community. And I'm so proud of the ladies that were up here earlier. Those are some of our research ambassadors. You guys did great. David and Linda here are research ambassadors. I don't know if Sunny's here right now or Kathy. Sunny, there you are. So we really have created an infrastructure to allow people who want to immerse themselves in science to be a part of the community. So thank you guys for being here. The other thing that we do is we really hold ourselves to some pretty high standards, always, to support each other, to encourage collaborative solutions, and to serve the ALS community in a way that promotes kindness, respect, and inclusion, always, and that's very, very important to us. So what do we do with all of that? Well, we participate in a lot of things, and I'm also looking around at how many of you have utilized our research ambassadors for things like patient advisory boards, task forces, work groups, different things, because we believe that our lived experience, having been on the ALS journey, is equally as important as our life experience and who we were and are and continue to be as human beings living on the ALS journey. So if anybody would like to talk about that later, happy to share, and please feel free to talk to our research ambassadors as well. And our goal moving forward is we know that we are very proud of where we've come with our program. We've trained over 900 research ambassadors in the United States and Canada, and one class in Australia as well. But we would like to globalize that in partnership with the International Alliance to create an infrastructure that lets people with lived experience live a purposeful life and immerse themselves into the science community. So the next thing, so we know that, you know, there are great people like Jean and Cassandra who are very well spoken and immerse themselves into the science, but that's not where you are when you first get your diagnosis, right? It's that dark, scary place that we need to help people through. So we decided at the Healy Center that we would navigate patient navigation. And to us, what that meant was we need to lead that communication, we need to act as intermediaries, and we need to serve in other organizations as well to understand what's happening in the community. So we put together this great patient engagement team. And honestly, we are a force. If you've ever met Catherine or Judy, you know there's like no words you have to say. They're just incredible. They give their heart and soul to what they do. And we decided to set out and say, well, what is patient navigation? And we put 4 phases of goals in place and said, we want to provide consistent, reliable information, and then we want to give that information to people in a way that they can empower themselves. And then we need to reach outside the walls of our MGH community and understand the underserved populations that are dealing with ALS. And finally, we want to enable all families impacted by ALS to make informed and educated decisions about participating in clinical research. So that's exactly what we did. And in a snapshot period of time, in an 18-month time, we realized, wow, there was a need for this because we are taking a lot of calls, and we are doing a lot of Zoom calls, and we are doing a lot of webinars. We hold a webinar every single Thursday. For 3 years, we've done that. So how are we going to keep up with this volume? We need to move to the next phase. We need to start empowering people. So we started creating digital things that people could use to find out information for themselves, and we knew that one of the first questions everybody asks is, am I eligible to participate in clinical research? So this is just an example where we created a tool online that kind of walks you through 5 quick questions and tells you if you probably are eligible for the trial or not. And it's not a hard stop. We don't believe in no. It's know this, but here are some things you can do as next steps. So that's how we approached digital tools. We created a lot of brochures. I'm sure lots of people have seen these. They're digital or printable. And as we see that there's a need, we create something to fill that need. And we realized that we weren't just doing this for our own country, the United States, that we actually have been helping families in 39 countries. Oh my gosh, thank goodness Canada's on there. Did you see that? Okay. So we started thinking, like, well, what are we going to do with all of this data and this information? And Pam and Leslie, wherever you guys sat down, we are in the process of implementing our own customer relationship management database, which is a relational database. And what that means is that we are tracking information about people, about what they're asking about which trials, about which expanded access protocols, about which site they want to participate in. And that's enabling us, or will when we go live in January, that will help us to expedite enrollment, to understand our gaps in communication, to know where we're talking to people from and where we aren't, so that we can decide how to best use our human resources. So this all led us to think, well, this is a bigger project than just what we're doing. And in talking with the founder, not maybe the founder, but one of the main people in health literacy, Lauren Webb, in the back of the room from Les Turner, I want to tell you guys what a wonderful job Les Turner does in the field of health literacy, and led by Lauren and her team. We decided that we need to move into phase 4. We got to start empowering people. We're going to do that through health literacy, which is really just making sure that people understand the purpose of the clinical research and their expectations of what the outcome of participating in clinical research will be. And that isn't up to them, that's up to us to be able to communicate to them in a way that makes sense to them. So last year at the Alliance, true story, excuse me, I'm sitting at, sorry, no voice today. I think it's divine intervention. Somebody up there is like, Allison, don't say it. No, last year I'm sitting at the Alliance and we're sitting at dinner and I'm talking about diversity, access, and inclusion because everybody wants that, right? But nobody knows how to do it. And I'm like, you know what, we can't sit here and talk about this anymore. We got to just rent a van and start driving and start talking to people. And I just so happened to be sitting next to a lovely lady named Mary from Cytokinetics who said, I think we can fund you to do that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I spoke that into truth. And truly, Judy and I are renting a van as soon as the weather lets us, and we are driving through upstate New York as part of an ethnographic qualitative study that we are doing in collaboration with the ALS Association, NEALS, MGH, and with support from MT Pharma and Cytokinetics. We are going out there and just listening to people and taking that information, which is going to inform a study, a quantitative study that is currently underway for social determinants of health, which are all those non-medical things that may or may not impact your ALS progression. So we're hoping to answer 2 questions with that study. One, do things like socioeconomic status, family support, stress, your work situation, geographical location, do these things impact ALS progression? And if so, how do these things impact ALS progression? So it's a very large effort, but we're starting, and we're going to keep going. So part of what we're doing, and I think maybe the Dutch Association yesterday talked about the train routes, and we did the same thing. We had the same concept of the Boston train routes at MGH, where they have different colored lines, and the blue line is the most basic, and it goes up from there. And so we decided we want to leave people a little better than we found them by giving them some information, and through our health literacy initiative, we started creating resources. and like deciding to participate in clinical research or phases of clinical research. And these are the basic ones. This is where we started. But we hope to evolutionize this process. So right now we're like the top picture where like the train is being pulled by a commander, and then we're gonna like set up those tracks, and then eventually we'll have like really slick trains pulling up to the station. And our end goal is to have this stealth community of trains that has information about all different things. And we are gonna meet people where they're at and customize what they need to know about what in a personalized toolkit. And this is just an example of what that might look like leveled in health literacy. These are templates, there's not real words in them. The phases of clinical trials for blue line, orange line, and then what that might look like as you become more informed. The last thing I want to tell you about is a project called ALS Office Hours. We know that in the United States, at least, it can be hard to get in to see your care team. It can take a little while, and that's just because they're very, very busy, not because they want to make you wait to see them. But we also have a lot of social media options. We have a lot of ways to get information. We want people to have good resources and good information. So this is a hugely collaborative effort. You can see everybody on the bottom that has come together, all as volunteers. And every week on Fridays, we open up for 1 hour a Zoom, and anybody can come ask any question, and we will help you to find the resources that you need. So this is a really special program, and actually our research ambassadors have stepped in to help us administer that. So grateful for that, so grateful for that. So to close, we have a lot to do. We have a lot we're working on, but there's a secret to success that I'm going to share with you. Keep calm, drink Diet Pepsi, or Diet Coke, Kathy, wherever you are, either one works. You know that. And I found this funny quote that says, I'm not on a diet. And it's funny because people go, well, then why do you drink diet soda? I'm like, clearly, so I can eat regular cake. And I'm like, I feel so seen. I don't know who Gabriel is, but I think I love him. I don't know. So moving forward, we just want to share what we've learned. We've made mistakes along the way. We want to learn from everybody else and remove those boundaries that we have by living in different countries, because we know we rise by lifting others, and we want treatments and cures for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Allison. And yes, you threw Canada in there a couple of times. We've got a question at the back, but I have one question for you first.
Yes.
What is the name of the program that has been modeled after the Curly?
The Canadian Ambassador Program. Yes!
There you go. All right, I think, Gethin, we've got you in the back.
Thomas, MD Australia. Just like to say, Alison, that's a fantastic suite of programs you got there, and I think you're definitely doing exactly what your mum told you.
Oh, thank
great
you.
work.
Thank you, Gethin.
And I'd just like to give a plug for running your own Crilly program as well, because we ran our first one last year in Australia, and we got fantastic support from Alison and Rick and Terry, the rest of the team. And they even dialed in at God knows what time of night it was for those guys and spent several hours helping us run our program. So if anyone else around the world is thinking about running their own Crilly, I would recommend it. Reaching out to Alison, you will get brilliant support.
Oh, thank you. Do you want my socks, Gethin? Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Gethin. And yes, the Canadian program is called the Canadian ALS Learning Institute, and it's modeled after the Curly. And it has been just a phenomenal program, and I think Paula can attest to that as well. So, excellent. One more question, and then I think we are at time.
Hey, Alison, right here.
Hi. I hear your voice.
Khalib Daweh from the ALS Association. What you didn't talk about, by the way, which is a program that you have around having a group of people with ALS that have raised their hand to provide feedback to industry. This is, even last week I contacted you, I think a couple of days ago before we both got here. It's such a valuable program that you have put together. So question I had about that is, what's sort of the turnover rate there? Do you always have a number that you need for people with ALS who have raised their hand and said we would talk to industry, we'll tell them about how to design trials and burden and all of that? And how do you make sure that you're constantly getting, sort of people that have that expertise? Are they getting trained through Curly? How do you kind of prepare them for that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We have given a lot of focus on that. So while we've trained 900 research ambassadors, this is a brutal disease. We have about, that was an 8-year period. We have about 220 in play right now. We want everybody who wants to participate and who's capable of participating to have a chance to. At our last class in Florida, we had 121 applicants, and we could take 13. So we know there's a huge overflow, and we have 4 classes scheduled in the first quarter of 2024. And keep in mind, these are all done by volunteers in the science community. And then we take those people interested specifically in those patient advisory boards for industry, and they get special training afterwards. They get assigned a research ambassador mentor. They may sit in with a very experienced group on 1 or 2 before they can move on to the larger ones. And we always have a leader in every one of those groups who has been doing this for a sufficient amount of time that can lead the group through the process.
Thank you very
for
much,
the question.
Allison. Excellent. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking Allison.